All right, should be live. Let me just check before we go. Yeah, we are live. I have to pull up the chat though. Hold on, just give me a second. Forgot it wasn't. All right, everything's good now. Okay, let me just. Where is it? Okay. All right, today we're going to talk about what is known as. Why is this going full screen? So stupid. Media monitor, so it makes it so that all this stuff is smoother. But today we're going to talk about Wu Wei, which is effortless action. Um, the idea is pretty simple. All right, what's up, Sahida? How's everything? I think it's been a few days since I streamed. I, um, okay, hopefully everyone starts screaming. But yeah, um, yeah, my bad. I'm like out of it right now. But yeah, today we're gonna talk about Wu Wei. We're going to try to hopefully not be interrupted. And yeah, I think this is an interesting idea. And I think this is an idea if you can start to carry out, if you can start to lose yourself in the things that you love to do, you can really be fulfilled. And I think that's really what a lot of it comes down to. Can you do something every day that you stop thinking about everything? Because the more you think, the more you're going to stress yourself out. And there's something to be said about the need to think, the need to be doing something, the need to be, well, I finished this, so I need to do that. And I feel like the more I think, the more I'm finding ways to be unhappy, whereas the more I'm conscious and aware and present, the more I just exist.
A novice farmer indulged himself in motivational videos. He became familiar with ideas like the importance of effort, the hustle culture, and work hard, play hard. After binge watching for days, he walked onto his farm, fired up, and determined to make it a great success. He started with pulling one of the crops as a way to make them grow faster, but this didn't work. Then he began to water the plants twice as much, hoping to make them grow faster, but he drowned them instead. After trying to force his success, the farmer realized no matter how much effort he puts in, acting in opposition to nature is counterproductive.
Why is there an airplane right now? I feel like there's so much just background noise. My apologies. So this analogy he's giving can apply to absolutely everything. So like think about everything. Like the more you try to force something, the more it seemingly resists it. The more you try to force a relationship that's going wrong, the worse it becomes. Think about, people are just arguing and arguing and arguing and arguing for the sake of arguing, and there's no understanding. And that's really what the idea of Taoism is. It's that when you try to force anything, there's resistance, and resistance is opposition, and opposition is the thing you're trying to avoid in life. Think if you could go through life without anybody telling you no, where could you be? And that's really the idea it's saying that it's not necessarily external people saying no, it's the world around you. It's you get in your car and it just starts. You do this and it just works because you do things in accordance with the nature of things. You don't try to make something that it's not.
Despite humanity's technological developments and will to progress, we're still utterly dependent on nature. Human effort has its limitations and is always in conjunction with nature. We cannot grow a plant, for example, completely isolated from natural growth, even though we can influence and manipulate it. The reputed author of the Tao Te Ching, Lao Tzu, stated that the world governs itself.
Nobody knows if this guy's a real person or if it's a collection of writers. I'm not sure what the name translates to. But nobody knows. It's very much speculative, and nobody knows when it was actually written. They say like I think it's anywhere from 2000 BC to 500 BC, something like absurd like that. It's like extremely old text, and it's very, very like short. Let me grab it real quick. So all the ideas in this video, well, actually, it's only talking about a singular idea that's like only a handful of sentences, but this is the entire Taoist philosophy right here in this tiny, tiny book. Now, there's a few other texts that are regarded. I think there's Lao Tzu and then there's Lao Zai. I think there's two or three really big Taoist philosophers, but when you talk about Taoism, you're generally only talking about this work, the Tao Te Ching or the Tao Te Ching. It, it's pronounced Tao, but for the longest time I was saying Tao because I've only seen it written and I haven't heard it said. So I always feel bad because I definitely pronounce a lot of things wrong. But basically, everything when it comes to Taoism is solely in this work. So if you like any of these ideas that we're going to talk about today, really, I really, really urge you to pick up this work because it's something that you can get through an afternoon, but it's something that you'll have to study for an entire lifetime in order to understand. And I think isn't that just such a fun idea? Like, it's so short but so complex, and you have to decipher it, and it's like its own Rosetta Stone.
It doesn't need our intervention. As Lao Tzu wrote, when you arrive at non-action, nothing will be left undone. End quote.
So I don't think a lot of people explain this. It's not necessarily non-action. It's working without resistance. It's working without, internal, external resistance. Like it's doing things for the sake of doing them, not for the external result. Like, if you go into an activity and you say, well, I'm writing this book so that I become rich and famous, it's probably going to be a terrible book, but if you write a book because it's something that inspires you, then you have a good chance of becoming rich and famous, or at least a better one than if you do it solely for the ends. You know what I mean? And it's this idea. It's like losing yourself in the activity, losing yourself because it's something you love to do. Like I'm sure we've all had activities, sports is a really easy example that you were playing the sport and you felt like you were watching someone else do it. You felt like something was flowing through you. You felt like something was occurring that you were just witnessing. That's this idea. That's really what it's talking about. And I think it's a super fascinating concept. I think it's a super interesting idea. And the more we start to play around with this in our day-to-day lives, is the more we start to feel happy because all happiness is a lack of thought. I know it sounds dumb. I know it sounds like non-advice, but at the same time, it's like your happiest moments are not the moments you're thinking about, it's the moments that you're not thinking. It's the moments where everything is perfect, everything's falling into place. You're not worried about tomorrow. You're not worried about the past. You're not worried about your problems. You're just sitting there and you might be enjoying nature. You might be enjoying a dinner with your family. You might be sitting around a campfire. Like, I don't know what it is that makes you happy, but I know your happiest moments are those when you let go, when you allow things to happen, when you allow things to occur, when you reject the resistance. Think about anxiety, think about fear. It's all of us resisting the current moment. It's all of us saying that, well, I can't fix this problem right now, but I should be. It's like that's not how things work, man.
Quote. This
1 minute
idea
in,
resembles the basic understanding
let's see how far we are into the stream. Okay, it's not that bad. 10 minutes. We're 10 minutes in. We're watching.
of the paradoxical concept Wu Wei. But when we look for a definition of Wu Wei, we quickly discover that there isn't one fixed
Taoism exists in paradoxes, and it's very difficult for a lot of people to understand them, especially in the Western world, because people don't understand paradoxes. I was trying to I was trying to explain a paradox to someone. It was in a YouTube comment section, so of course it didn't. Like, has there ever been a good discussion in YouTube comment section? I don't think so, but basically I was talking about the book The Alchemist and how the whole point of the story is that this guy basically he sought out fame and fortune and then realized he had it at home already. And obviously it's a symbolic story. Obviously it's not meant to be that's literally how it is, but for each and every person, what you're looking for, you already have. You just need to listen to that voice. You just need to listen to what you're trying to do. Um, and the guy just was like, "How can you have already have what you're looking for?" It's like, what? What? It's just like, have you ever seen things be multifaceted, nuanced? Like, I don't get, because I think paradoxes are a super compelling, super interesting idea, and I think a lot of the mysteries of the world exist in paradox, and yet it's just like a tool that's kind of been taken out of popular media. Perhaps we have to like blame like movies and books and TV shows because I feel like it's really dumbed down the plot devices, and I don't think these things really exist anymore. And perhaps that's why people don't understand symbolism. But when you understand symbolism, you understand the world. That's really what it comes down to. If you understand the symbols that guide us and the symbols that we shoot for, then you understand the motivation of people. You understand why people are striving to be something that they're not.
Meaning. Some translate Wu Wei as non-action,
We made it
or
15
doing
more
nothing,
seconds before
others
another
as
rant.
actionless action, and others as effortless action.
I like this definition the best, effortless action. Because Taoists aren't people that go into the mountain and meditate and get themselves away from nature. Taoists are people that live amongst the people, but live ordinary lives of pure bliss, of pure happiness. There's a story of Lao Tzu fishing, and then the emperor sends his men to make him become a advisor to him. He's like, I don't want to be an advisor. Like, I don't. The moment I become something is the moment I lose myself. And it's like all of these ideas are so profound yet so simple. And that's really what Taoism is. It's this simple solution that we overlook because we don't think it's solution. Like just don't participate in the things that you don't enjoy. And it's so difficult for people to even understand that idea today. It's like think of the amount of people that go, wake up, look at the news, immediately ruin themselves for the rest of the day, and then they wonder why they're unhappy. It's like you don't have to participate in that cycle. And then they'll go, well, I want to be informed. I want to be. It's like, does it benefit you? Is it something that helps you? Is it something that uplifts you? Is it something that in any way improves your life? If it's not, no. Have I read the Four Agreements? Yeah, I have. It's a really, really good book. I like it. It's it shares a lot of the same ideas as the Tao Te Ching, I think. I think it's definitely a good place to start when it comes to I guess you would say esoteric philosophy. Um, but I think it's simplistic in some ways, and I think it's I don't know. I liked it when I read it, but I haven't reread it or I haven't really cited it because I think other books do what it does better. You know what I mean? But maybe we can do a stream about the Four Agreements. That's probably a good idea because it's a really easy thing to talk about. It's a really easy thing to go into. And whenever you can segment stuff, it makes it really, really easy to talk about because you have like the natural breakpoints. That's why like for a long time on my channel, I was breaking down each law of the 48 laws of power because it was so easy to just run with that concept. Have I made a review on it? Yeah, I have. You'd have to look. It was a while ago because because I've done a video every single day for the past like year. So like it might be difficult to find, but just go through my videos, you'll find it. I don't know if you can even search that. I don't even know if there's a way to search through my videos on my channel because I don't know if I even come up on a search. So
We find out that Taoism offers several layers,
we're a
if you
minute and a
will,
half
regarding
in.
how Wu Wei can enhance our relationship with the world, and how this ancient art of letting things happen doesn't necessarily make us passive, ignorant bystanders, but can actually improve how we act, leading
Let's
to
speed
better
it up.
outcomes. This video serves as a humble attempt to make the depth of this philosophical idea clear and practical. Probably the most common interpretation of Wu Wei is quite literally aligning our actions with nature and not forcing anything and acting when
It's not okay. This is where I think a lot of people get tripped up with nature. It's with your nature. It's both with things are and the way things are for you. And this is something that people get wrong with the transcendentalist, with Henry David Thoreau, with Ralph Waldo Emerson. People associate Taoism or transcendentalism with going out and living in the woods, going out and being a monk and all these things. And it's like, not really. It's living in accordance with the way you want to live. And it's not necessarily like, oh, I want a fancy car, I want a fancy house. It's like you meet your bare minimum and that's all you need. That's really what this breaks down to. And it becomes almost like a spiritual practice when you can align yourself fully with your interests.
it's suitable. Lao Tzu stated that using force always leads to unseen troubles. With force, he doesn't seem to point to literal use.
Think of Newtonian physics. I mean, a lot of these ideas are interpreted into the scientific field. Like a lot of the stuff from the Gita, a lot of the stuff from the Vedantas, I think that's how you say it. Um, that a lot of their teachings have become like quantum physics, the study of consciousness, the study of I'm trying to even think of what the field would call like sort of like the weird kind of physics when you get to the speed of light, that kind of stuff. And really have just confirmed a lot of like the ancient teachings. And it's interesting because you see that like it's not really it's half spiritual, but it's half scientific, and they use the form of allegory and they use the form of symbolic representations to get these ideas across. Like I don't know if the Greeks necessarily believed that there was these human-like figures that controlled the forces. Obviously, they believed that there was some deity, some god, but I don't know if they believed there was a physical representation or it was just easier to understand it that way. And I think these ideas are like kind of followed today, but we don't like to admit it.
Of force per se, but rather to forcing
Like, is the idea of the wind, is the idea of Mother Nature, the idea of that sort of thing, is that just a universal archetype, or is that something that they actually worship?
the flow of
I don't
nature.
know the answer to
Nature
that.
has its course. It's always working in the background. It lies at the root of our
I
humanity's
think it's probably
existence and
both.
continually creates and recreates what the Taoists call the 10,000 things, everything under heaven and beyond. But despite the immense propulsion of the universe, today's society places the importance of conscious human effort above all. We celebrate effort, regardless of its actual effectiveness, as we aim to
Think about like if you've ever had a job. I hope you guys have. But actually, I hope not because I think a lot of jobs are bullshit. But if you have a job and you finish what you were assigned to do, you find busy work because there's like this idea that the more you work, the better employee you are. The idea that the better you work, the more you get done. And that's really not necessarily true. Like if you are an average person and you put your nose to the grindstone, like yeah, that's the way to get things done. But if you're a creative person, the less you work, the better you work, essentially. Because the more creative solutions you can find, the more well rested you are, the more in a flow state you are. No, that was more of a well, obviously they worshipped them as deities, but it's like were those deities that things that were kind of understood from the universal archetypes was more the question. It's like a multifaceted question. I I don't know how to explain it right now. I don't know how to put into words. What's your take on seeking validation from others? I recently had a disagreement with someone related to it. If you seek validation from others, then you seek to be someone else. Because only you can only judge someone from your own understanding. So the way you see someone is purely based off of your data, based off of the experiences you had with them, based off the stories that you've heard about them, based off your own bias. So if someone's validating you, it's you're doing good in their eyes, which really doesn't mean anything. Obviously there's people that you respect, obviously, like if you have a girlfriend, if your parents approve, like obviously you can put a little bit of weight into what they say, But really, the first and only thing that matters is, do you like yourself? Are your actions congruent with that version of yourself? You know what I mean? Like, are you living up to who you feel you are, really? That's really what it comes down to. And anything aside from that, I think is just like icing on the cake. Like obviously it's nice to hear that you're doing good from someone that you respect, someone that you love. But I think we put far too much weight into it, and I think there's been far too many people who have been tormented by what their parents thought, by what the world as a whole thought. And I think if you listen to yourself first and only, then you're on a path to fulfillment. They were like, it's okay getting it from the right people. Yeah, I don't think it's something that you should like. I think it's something you should like kind of be weary of, because there's definitely a lot of people that their entire lives are lived for the validation of others, and that's not something you want to do. But I wouldn't say it's necessarily bad to feel good about someone saying, "Hey, thank you for doing this," or "You did a good job on this." I just think it's when you put your investment into it. It's like anything, like it's not bad to have a hobby, but when it becomes your personality, then it's a bad thing. Like there's people whose personalities are based off of jujitsu or going to the gym or reading or being this niche expert on a certain, you know what I mean? It's like when it becomes everything you are, I think that's when it becomes bad, when it consumes you. It's like having money. I don't think having money makes you a bad person, but I think it definitely opens up the avenue for you to be a bad person. The Bible says the love of money is evil, so it's like it's the obsession, it's the reliance. It's when you need something for you to feel good about yourself, that's when it becomes bad. And I think it's kind of a tricky subject, but when you let it, the need of it, yeah, yeah. Yeah, no, I definitely agree with that point. I used to be like along the lines of like um only care about what you think about yourself, but I also think like sometimes it's difficult to be honest with yourself. So if you're hearing it from people that you know are honest with you and want the best for you, then it's definitely something to consider. I wouldn't say it's the end all be all. I think you always have to be somewhat understanding of um how other people are biased as well. But I think it's a case by case basis. But I would say when you need anything, when you're relying on anything, it's something you're a slave to.
To always be busy for the sake of being busy. As modern Sisyphuses, we push rocks uphill just for the sake of pushing. Making an effort is one thing, but intelligently making an effort is another. Yes, sometimes hard work is necessary and action is appropriate, but on many occasions, it isn't. It depends on the rhythm of the game, on the cards you're dealt, and whether or not it's your turn. Acting out of turn means going against the flow of the game. Hence, we often experience that forcing things leads to ruin in the long run, and that pushing our luck beyond nature's constraints backfires. On the other hand, situations often solve themselves when we don't force or intervene. By letting things happen, things get done naturally. The novice farmer
One of the greatest um, ways to meditate. I wish I remembered who said this. But basically, the easiest way I found to meditate is when you're trying to meditate, just tell yourself, let go of control. Because that's really all meditation is. That's really all awareness is. That's really all enlightenment is losing control, losing your need to be in control of things, allowing things to occur. Like every great philosophy, every great meditation system, it all hinges on that idea, losing control, losing your need to be dictating things. And when you allow that to just occur, then that's where the magic happens. That's where you can relax. That's where you can take a deep breath and you feel like the weight of the world's off your shoulders. That's really one of the greatest things I've ever discovered.
farmer, for example, simply needed to leave his crops alone and be patient, and nature would do the rest. But when it's time to reap, the farmer should roll up his sleeves. The Tao never acts with force, yet there's nothing it cannot do, Lao Tzu stated. If you would just go along with nature, then everything runs smoothly. The farmer's task is to sow the seeds. The seed's task is to grow into crops, and then the farmer's task is to reap the harvests when they're ready. This is how nature works optimally. Lao Tzu believed that the world cannot be governed, as the world governs itself. It's entirely
So think like this is something that Camus said. Every revolution is futile because every revolution eventually becomes exactly what it was started to be against. Anytime there's a government, it's infringing on someone's rights. There's no such thing as a perfect system. There's no such thing as a perfect world. And it's all the ebbs and flows. It's all the, okay, maybe we could start this government. Maybe it could be somewhat fair for a while. Then it collapses. Then it ends like the Roman Empire. Everything has to come to an end. And everything in life is one big circle of living and dying.
out of control. Trying to control it is always a losing battle, and spending our lives fighting against nature is a waste of time, no matter how much people celebrate us for engaging in such heroic endeavor. Instead of spending our life energy trying to control, govern, and change the natural course of things, we're better off accepting what is and navigating through it like water flowing through a rocky surface towards the ocean. I quote, "Some are meant to lead, and others are meant to follow. Some must always train, and others have an easy time. Some are naturally big and strong, and others will always..."
So this idea is fairly fascinating. It's so basically what Tao is, or the Tao, is the indescribable way of things. So like the easiest way to think about it is like this. Things happen for a reason, and they may not always make sense because everything is occurring perfectly according to plan, but it's working on such a grand scale that you can't see the bigger picture. That's the easiest way to think about this phenomenon. That's the easiest way to think about this concept. Now, whether there's some conscious effort, whether there's some conscious purpose, we can argue, but things just occur as they're meant to be, and everything is a cycle of trying to seek balance, good and bad. Something good happens to you, that means something bad's gonna happen to you. Something bad's just happened to you, something good's gonna happen to you. It's that kind of circle, but think of just expansive as expansive can be. It's like the law of detachment. Not necessarily.
always be small. Some will be protected and
The law
nurtured,
of
and others will
detachment's
need
like that's like a manifestation idea, and it's the idea that when you detach yourself from the circumstances, then you can better embody the ideal. Um, I think the law of detachment has like a specific context to it that's kind of related.
with destruction. The master accepts things as they are, and out of compassion avoids extravagance, excess, and the extremes.
Acting
When
for
we go
the act
deeper into the
itself. So the greatest creatives always have this ideal. It's always you do something for your own self, not for the sake. And this is really what Kafka ended up realizing when he died, because Kafka in his last story, he wrote the hunger, no, it's A Hunger Artist. And the dying culmination is the man realized that he accomplished his dream, he broke his record, but nobody was there to notice it except him, but he was happy. And essentially what he's saying is his entire life was not a waste because he was able to express something that he otherwise couldn't. And it's quite a beautiful message. But this is the opposite of Nietzsche. Nietzsche died kind of not ever getting the recognition he wanted, and then after he died, just skyrocketed to superstardom. And it's really funny because I feel like Nietzsche would have perhaps recovered if he had just understood this, if he understood that one day people will realize and today's not the day. But he said what he had to say.
meaning of Wu Wei, it becomes even more intriguing. Let's assume its most accurate definition is effortless action. As opposed to the conventional translations like non-action and doing nothing, it points to being active and on the move, even though the common denominator stands firm, namely letting things happen. With effortless action, we could say that we're not so much doing, but rather going. We embark on a river stream without considering where it brings us. We're setting sail into uncharted territory, but don't let the great unknown phase us. We swim along with the current.
And you do something because you want to. You don't do it because of the result. I'm not streaming because I want thousands of people here. I'm streaming because I wanted to stream. It's that.
Not against it, making our way smooth, devoid of stammers and hiccups. Swimming against the current takes effort, so does holding onto a rock. When we force things, problems arise. An example is going on a date. The person you're going to meet is interested in one thing only, getting to know you, the person you are at that moment. But many people over-prepare, over-analyze, and rehearse what they're going to say, and so the nerves come in. People overcompensate, are disingenuous, and come across as staged. Why is this the case? Most likely because we focus too much on the results. Zhuangzi talks about how different prospects can
They give small talk. Like, oh, hi, how was your day? Oh, what are you doing this weekend? Like, whenever you ever had a conversation like that and it was interesting, this is one of the reasons why I hate small talk. It's just there's no point for it. You don't actually care. You don't it doesn't actually matter. If someone had something interesting to say about their day, They would have just told me. It would have just came out. Like I don't care if you woke up 5 minutes after that means nothing to me. And that's really the inauthenticity that we deal with on a daily basis. There's a saying in the Gita, perform action, don't wish for the reward. Yeah. So people theorize that Buddhism and these sorts of ideals kind of stirred from uh, a lot of the ideas in the Gita. That it kind of stripped away the deity of it, and it created these sorts of ideals.
can influence our actions and emotional
Because
state
they are very similar when you break them down. It's just one has a god, one doesn't.
if we attach ourselves to them. A previous video named Win Without Trying explains this in more detail using Zhuangzi's parable of the archer. In the context of
I think technically Taoism is a philosophy. Technically, it's not really. It's closer to a religion than it is a philosophy. It's the same thing with Buddhism. I don't know if Buddhism is necessarily classified as a religion, but like, I mean, you could always use semantics to argue away everything. Like, I don't necessarily agree with that. It's whatever you want it to be. Like, use whatever model you need it to be for you to make sense of it. But it's you can't help but notice the trends and the similarities.
a date, most of us want the date to become a success. We want the other person to like us. So there's pressure involved. There's a prize to be won. And if we don't get it, we feel miserable. And thus, what could have been a fun, joyful night out becomes a strenuous, forced, stressful event with lots of discursive thoughts and mental preparations in advance. We are standing in our own way, blocking the natural flow of the universe, which we cannot possibly control, no matter how much thought and planning we
Did she give him the flowers? What is this picture?
throw at it. But imagine that you enter a date utterly unprepared.
My girlfriend was like, "I'll get you flowers." I was like, "I don't want flowers." I recently got my hands on the book, The Archer of Paulo Coelho. Okay, yeah, let me know because I've never heard anything about any of his other books aside from The Alchemist. So I'd be interested to see if it carries the same weight or it's interesting or it's not interesting. Because I think there's like a certain reality where there's authors that become so synonymous with one work that nobody reads their other works. Like Tolkien was this way. Tolkien wrote a bunch of other stories, but not to say that they're not popular, but they're definitely overshadowed. And when you talk about Tolkien, you don't know him for the other things he wrote. Same thing with George R. R. Martin. I think he wrote extensively before A Game of Thrones came out. And does anybody even know that? Like, I only know that because I'm weirdly obsessed with books. Most people just know Orwell for 1984 and Animal Farm. Most people know Huxley purely for Brave New World and don't know about his spiritual revolution and the interesting things he wrote about consciousness and the exploration of consciousness. And it kind of sucks because at a certain point your genius gets overshadowed by your genius.
without even seeing it coming. Now you're acting natural and in the moment and spontaneously, as you haven't had the opportunity to overthink. There has been no time for planning, plotting, analyzing, and all that remains is a pure you, present and one with the moment. And most people love that. So if we manage to let go of the results, we can act more effortlessly and responsively just for the act itself. If we go even deeper, we arrive at the ego and emptiness. Because of past experiences, social conditioning, or ideology,
The ego is just like purely a creation of our own head. I think if you lose yourself in the moment, the ego dissipates. But it's when you approach a situation, you're like, I need to do this because I've done this in the past. I need to do this. I need to do that. It's that need to control. It's that need to hold on to some image, that need to hold on to the idea that we're better than this other person or that we're capable of this. And it's like if you approach each situation individually, then you can approach each situation with the best rationality, with the best approach. But it's oftentimes our ego that leads us to be overconfident and arrogant. And this is the downfall of every great general. Every great general eventually hits the point where their ego is so large that they overlook a detail and end up, something bad happens. Like think about Caesar. Caesar was betrayed by his best friend. Although people say Caesar's best friend was Brutus, but Caesar was also sleeping with Brutus's mom. So who knows? Who knows? Maybe that's the real reason for the Ides of March. Like Brutus wasn't some hero. He wasn't some guy that was like, I need to save Rome. He's like, fuck this guy. His books are very surreal quality to them. You don't feel like you're reading them purposely. It's one of my favorite authors. That's interesting. Yeah, I haven't read anything else by him, but I definitely like The Alchemist. I think it was a little simplistic. It wasn't as deep as the stuff I like to read. Like everything that Paulo Coelho does, Khalil Gibran does, but better. Same thing with Nicole Naimi. Um, I mean, there's plenty of authors that write that way. He's definitely something special, but I just like personally to me, I just like Gibran so much better.
We have molded ourselves into knowledgeable, cultured human beings that fit the context they're in. This context could be a religious community, a country, or a profession. We generally see this as a good thing, but there's a downside. And this downside has to do with the ego. The ego often distorts how we perceive the reality of the world. When we approach a situation, for example, a conversation with a spouse, the ego tends to fill in the unknown gaps with all kinds of prejudices, fantasies, and convictions. The larger the ego, the more it will dominate the situation, subsequently closing us off from what's truly going on. Therefore, people with strong convictions experience great difficulty seeing the world in another light or outside.
So in a Jungian sense, your ego is the mask that you create to be part of this world. So your reputation, the things you tell yourself, the things people say about you, it's that sort of idea. And it's really a false self. It's really a false identity. And the closer you are to your real self, the smaller your ego is. But the less you know about yourself, the larger your ego is.
The confines of their intellectual prison. Hence, Lao Tzu urges us to return to a more unprocessed state, which he calls the uncarved block. We could see the uncarved block as a person who is unencumbered by all kinds of intellectual baggage, so his vision of the world becomes clear. Dr. Wu Lin Chong, a Dutch philosopher and sinologist, explains her interpretation of Wu Wei in a Dutch book about Taoist philosophy, emphasizing the element of emptiness or openness. She describes the essence of practicing Wu Wei as follows, and I quote, "And so, the whole practitioner is able to, from the clarity of his egoless center, observe all relevant forces in a certain situation, in their being, undistorted, so he can respond to them flawlessly."
Again, just you drop all of the preconceived notions about things. You approach things uniquely for each situation. You don't rely on your past success and your laurels. You allow yourself to see things as they are. Like, think about a fighter. Like when a fighter has this ego, when they have this sense of identity, then they're like, I'm trying to think of a really good example, but like there's MMA fighters who know that there's a great wrestler and they'll be like, I'm gonna wrestle with him to show that I'm better than him. And it's like if you just had a smarter game plan, you'd be able to just beat him striking. But because your ego got the better of you, you got into a wrestling exchange and got submitted. It's like you can find countless lessons time and time again of people just neglecting to approach the situation rationally because they just didn't see things for as they were. He's influenced my life a lot as an author, all about going with the flow, looking for the magic and everything. It's like, yeah, okay. Yeah, I think this is a pretty good lesson to take away, you know?
End quote. So, if we look at Wu Wei this way, it's not just about letting go, going along with the flow of nature, allowing the universe to do its job. It's a much bolder move, for which we need a lot of courage. We have to be brave enough to let go of what we've learned, throw our normative frameworks in the trash, and flush our assumptions through the toilet. Or how Lao Tzu put it, and I quote, "Renounce knowledge, and your problems will end. What is the difference between yes and no? What is the difference between good and evil? Must you fear what others fear? Nonsense. Look how far you have missed the mark."
Renounce knowledge and your problems will end. What is the difference between yes and no? So he's saying renounce knowledge. What he's saying is if you think you know something, you probably don't know it as well as you think you do. Like there's a Latin proverb, there's no rule without an exception. And that's really what this is talking about. Like you need to approach every situation for as it is because, what's worked in the past might not work in the future. Didn't Muhammad Ali constantly say he's the best and became the best? The the thing is with Muhammad Ali is that guy was okay. So I don't know the exact timing, but yeah, he did profess to be the best. But Muhammad Ali was interesting because he would say he was. Let me think about this phrasing because it's very specific. He said he was arrogant in public but humble in private because he didn't want to be taken for a fool. He didn't want people to take advantage of him, but he wasn't really that same person when you got him off the mic. He was a very loving and a very warm person. So like I think there's a certain level of showmanship and there's a certain level of like if you convince yourself that you can do something, then you can do it. And that's a strategy in and of itself. So I think there's a little bit of element of that. But I wouldn't really say that's ego. I think that's just self-confidence. And like, obviously like there's psyching yourself up and then there's doing something to bring others down. I don't really I think there's a difference between self-confidence and arrogance. I think self-confidence is the belief that if you put in the work, you can do it. And I don't see a problem with that. But when you have arrogance, when you believe that you're so good that this other person can't touch you, like then that's something that's detrimental. So I think it's a fine line. It's a very difficult subject to bring up and really flesh out a nuanced point.
End quote. Zhuangzi tells us a story about a conversation between Confucius and one of his pupils, Yan Wei. Yan Wei wanted to travel to the kingdom of Wei after he heard about its many problems and tyrannical ruler, so he planned to use his knowledge and wisdom to lecture the king of Wei and steer the kingdom into the right direction. Confucius persuaded Yan Wei not to do it, telling him that his plans were too ego-driven and wouldn't work. After all, no one is waiting for a know-it-all coming out of nowhere, telling you how to take care of your business, let alone a self-absorbed tyrant. But still, Confucius offered
The Taoists often laugh at Confucius.
an alternative, which he called the fasting of the heart. Confucius described the fasting of the heart as a form of meditation, which leads to letting our preconceptions go and making room to receive.
Confucius is very black and white with things, whereas the Taoists are more paradoxical. So I think there's more truth in paradox than there is in black and white because when have you ever met a completely good person? I think people are all in their own ways morally gray. I think people could do good things, but I don't think there's ever been really a person that has never done anything wrong. And I think there's that element to things.
With an open and receptive attitude, Yan Wei would learn about Wei and its king, their customs and beliefs, the situation as it plays out, and eventually be much more capable of lending a helping hand. In this understanding of Wu Wei, we let go of the ego, so we can act in accordance with the situation at hand, as it is. We let things happen and act responsively, unrestrained by our limited preconceived ideas. Or, as Lao Tzu put it, we return to being uncarved blocks. Chong stated, and I quote, "No matter if it's about politics, governance, diplomacy, or any other activity, what Zhuangzi calls Wu Wei is this ultimate receptive and responsive way of action, from a crystal clear openness in yourself, one with the breathing of the cosmos." Thank you for watching.
That's a pretty good video. Let me see how long I've been going for. 42 minutes. I'll keep going a little long. Trying to find a short video. Can I watch something related to Young? Yeah. The Modern Shaman. Jung's Complete Psychology. Young Archetypes and Symbols. I've watched a lot of these top searched ones. I've done it specifically on stream. This is definitely a AI. Dude, I hate this like channel's new to you. It's so annoying. I was writing something today about dream analysis, so we'll explain that. 9 rules of dream interpretation. I I doubt this is actually a thing. Whenever you see like Jung with specific numbers, it's generally not correct because Jung was it's very different from Sigmund Freud that Jung basically didn't like to group things. He didn't like to categorize things because he understood that each person is uniquely themselves. And when you take people for that principle, then you can better treat them specifically. So like the 12 Jungian archetypes, they're not made by Jung, they're made by one of his students. And it's like I feel like it's unfortunate because I feel like it kind of gets away from what he was really trying to say. Maybe he did have 9 rules for dream analysis, but I doubt it. It was
The goal of Academy of
just
Ideas is to empower the individual and promote freedom. Become a supporting member to help us in our mission and access over
again, we're
75.
we're watching Academy of Ideas, pretty good channel. I feel like they have good stuff where I can just riff off of. So, watch some of their other videos.
Membership videos, with more added each month. Sign up now at
I feel like I have to do that
academyofideas.com/members.
more. Make sure I'm not in the way. No,
We
I'm not in
also
the way.
live in our dreams. We do not live only by day. Sometimes we
Okay. So I'm going to explain this concept because this is a Freudian idea. I don't know if he's going to explain it. So Jung's number one influence was Freud. Freud was kind of started the field of psychology, kind of took it from hypnotism to something more respectable, to something that was taught at university. So the original idea of um, Freud's psychology was through dream interpretation. So think about it this way. There's facets of your personality that you don't express in your day-to-day life, whether it's creativity, whether it's a sense of strength, whether it's a fear. Like there's a million things that go unnoticed, that go untouched in your day-to-day lives. And the moment you start sleeping is the moment that you start living out these things. And Freud called this wish fulfillment. I think that's a pretty good way to put it. So basically, in your dreams, there's like a unconscious idea of what you need to do with your life, and it's kind of a guide to tell you what you need to do if you can observe your dreams. So essentially, if you are able to remember your dream, you should write it down so that you can start thinking about it, so that you can start pondering about it, so that you know what you need to do to feel whole. Because if you don't have any dreams, if you're sleeping and you don't remember anything, then that means that there was not a significant enough thing in your life that you were missing out on. And people that don't have dreams are usually the happiest people. It's when you have dreams that you're usually in turmoil. Think about every media ever has like some premonition in a dream or something that's haunting the person. A really effective method to show that they're haunted is through their dreams. Dreams are like a pathway into the psyche that you can't otherwise access. And when you start understanding your dreams, then you can start understanding what you need to do in order to be happy.
accomplish our greatest deeds in dreams.
I think that was a pretty good
Are dreams the product of
definition.
random brain activity or a side effect of the mind consolidating its memories? Are they, as Sigmund Freud suggested, the expression of repressed wishes and desires? Or
Damn it.
is there something richer and more meaningful to dreams that escapes the notice of many in the modern day? Carl Jung believed there was, and in this video, we are going to explore why dreams are of vital importance.
So the difference between Freud and Jung's dreams is that Jung thought the symbols meant different things to different people, where Freud kind of tried to generalize like anything is this, it means this. And I think you can recognize certain universal symbols, but I think they mean different things to different people, especially in different contexts of what's going on in their life.
To our mental and physical health, and how the art of dream interpretation can revitalize our life. It is only in modern times that the dream, this fleeting and insignificant looking product of the psyche, has met with such profound contempt, writes Jung. Formerly it was esteemed as a harbinger of fate, a portent and comforter, a messenger of the gods. Now we see it as an emissary of the unconscious, whose task it is to reveal the secrets that are hidden from the conscious mind. And this it does with astounding completeness. The interpretation of
So the conscious, unconscious, basically put is you have memories that you can remember, and then there's memories that you can't remember. The memories that you can't remember are the things that are unconsciously guiding you in a certain direction. So if you're prone to anger or if you are addicted to something, like these are all indications that there's something at an unconscious level that's guiding you in that direction. And you can really only access these repressed memories through hypnosis or through dreams. And once you can kind of get to the root of the issue, you can kind of solve it. And that's really what he's talking about here.
dreams was an integral part of Jung's therapeutic approach. According to his own estimate, he analyzed no less than 80,000 dreams. In his seminar on dreams, Jung stated that dreams are messages sent up from the unconscious. And so, to grasp the significance of dreams, we must understand how Jung conceived of the unconscious psyche. In a lecture given in 1934, Jung wrote that it is as if our consciousness were a ship on the great sea of the unconscious. The fate of
So that's a fairly good analogy. You're guided. You think your conscious is guiding you, but it's truly being impelled by the un. It's truly being directed and thrashed around.
a ship is partially determined by the activity of the sea, and likewise the direction of our life is highly influenced by the unconscious. Furthermore, just as the sea contains resources, treasures, and dangers that are not easily seen from the surface, so too potentials for good and evil are hidden in our unconscious depths. Psychological development, according to Jung, is facilitated by bringing unconscious contents into the light of consciousness.
Do you think lucid dreams teach you the same lessons about your conscious life? Yeah, if you have lucid dreams, it's you're more able to access your unconscious. So like think of people that are creative. I, they need to do a study to confirm this, but everyone that's creative has some control of their unconscious, has some access to it. Like, I mean, have you ever just been sitting there and you get like a memory of something that you've long forgot about? Like, that's your unconscious coming to the surface. And generally, for most people, it only comes through dreams, but there's definitely people that are able to evoke and express things that they otherwise don't know. Think about intuition. Intuition kind of comes from the same source. So it's all sorts of these ideas that reoccur. I don't know if there's a concrete answer to it, but I would probably say yeah.
For this enriches our conscious personality, increases our knowledge, and promotes psychological wholeness. One does not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious, wrote Jung. More than any other phenomenon, dreams can facilitate this process, as they act as a window into the unconscious mind. Or as Jung explains, the dream is a spontaneous self portrayal, in symbolic form, of the actual situation in the unconscious. The dream is specifically the utterance of the unconscious. Paying attention to our dreams, and therein making more of the unconscious conscious, bestows many benefits, one of which is that dreams contain insights which in waking life we are unable or unwilling to see.
It's like kind of an unbiased understanding of yourself. Because in your dreams, you can't really lie to yourself. Like if someone in your dream attacks you, that's you attacking yourself. If someone in your dream tells you something, that's you telling yourself that. It's like it's a place where I mean, you can ignore the dream when you wake up, but you can't ignore it while you're experiencing it. And that's really the state of your psyche. Very weird to think about these things because like I don't necessarily have bad dreams anymore, but I used to have a ton of bad dreams when I was a kid, and like I think back and I was like extremely anxious, I was extremely fearful. And now that I don't hold any of these ideals, like I pretty much all have positive dreams. But like every once in a while I'm stressed out, I'll have a bad dream. I'm like, oh, that's there it is.
When we sleep, the soul is lit up completely by many eyes. With them, we can see everything that we could not see in the daytime. Intuitions or gut feelings that are not consciously processed, subtle hunches about the true character of other people, as well as blind spots and self deceptions that are inhibiting our development. All are examples of insights which our unconscious can reveal in dreams. This ability of a dream to disclose knowledge otherwise unavailable to waking consciousness is why throughout history, in the words of Jung, the dream has been regarded as a truth-telling oracle, or as Jung explains in more detail, the unconscious is the dark.
So think about the amount of movies and TV shows and books where there's like a premonition that's in a dream. Um, this is kind of what Jung's talking about. This Jungian synchronicities as well. So generally speaking, a Jungian synchronicity is like a gut feeling or a premonition that something's going to happen, and you don't know why you know it, but you trust it and it just happens. Essentially, the easiest way to explain this is everything that's ever been said to you, every memory you ever had, every experience you already have, plus the collective unconscious is collecting that data and indicating that something's going to happen. Think if you have a supercomputer inside your head, you kind of do, and it's telling you the right answer to a math problem that doesn't make sense. That's really what a Jungian synchronicity is. Is it so much that you need to apply the lessons consciously, or does your mind kind of apply it unconsciously? Like if something symbolizes ego death in your dream. I think you have to be conscious of it because it's kind of so your dream is occurring because you're not consciously doing it in your day-to-day life. Consciously or unconsciously doing it in your day-to-day life. So all your dream is it's not really guiding you, it's just if you can remember it, then you can fix it. Does that make sense? Like perhaps there's probably times that if you realize something, then you can unconsciously be guided in a better direction. But I think generally it's like the conscious awareness and the conscious effort that fixes it. But sometimes you can just be aware of a problem and then it can kind of just fix itself. Again, it's one of these things when you're dealing with the psyche, when you're dealing with the head, it's kind of yes and no. If that makes sense.
Dark being within that hears what our conscious ears do not hear and sees what our conscious eyes do not perceive. We only become aware of this unheard hearing, this unseen seeing, when the unconscious sends us these forgotten images and dreams. As windows into the unconscious, dreams also provide us with information about the health or sickness of our body. For the unconscious is intimately connected to the biology of the body and involved in regulating the functioning of organs. It is thus capable of detecting subtle abnormalities in the body, and it is not unusual for the unconscious to disclose these abnormalities in dreams, long before any overt symptoms show. Or as the Jungian psychoanalyst James Hall explains, it is by no means an easy matter to make organic diagnoses from dream material, although there are many striking examples of such predictions. The dream of an inner explosion preceding the leaking of an aortic aneurysm.
Imagine you go to a therapist and you're telling him about this dream and there's an explosion. He's like, "Yeah, you're about to have an aneurysm."
The appearance of dream figures with gallbladder disease prior to that illness being
It's so
suspected in the
funny.
dreamer, etc. Dreams can also warn us of the type of future that may manifest if we continue in our errant ways. Dreams prepare, announce, or
I think
warn about certain situations.
I've definitely had several of these ideas, or not of these ideas. I've definitely had several of these dreams where like it kind of indicated to me the way I was going, and I kind of did it. It was weird though. Like I don't know. I've had several points in my life where like I had a bad dream about a person that I was like friends with, and then I kind of like felt weird about it, kind of took a step back, and then they betrayed me, and I'm like, oh, like it's very weird when you start like recognizing these things and seeing where they're going.
Often long before they actually happen, wrote Jung. This is not necessarily a miracle or a precognition. Most crises or dangerous situations have a long incubation, only the conscious mind is not aware of it. Dreams can betray the secret. Jung provides an example of a dream of this type. Jung's colleague, an amateur mountaineer, told Jung of the following dream.
Jung's dream analysis are like so crazy to read as well. Um, I really urge you to look some of them up after this. Right now, it's fine. It's gonna be more interesting than me. But like he'll talk about like, oh, this random symbol always means this. You're like, dude, what are you talking about? I've never heard about this ever in my life. It's so funny. I had many dreams of me getting in a car accident and for a week. They stopped and like, oh my, that's insane. I mean, luckily I've never had anything like that. That's crazy. Dude, were you just waking up in the middle of the night sweating? Like, what is happening? Like, I'd be like, every time I got in the car, I'd be like looking over my shoulder. Like, that's terrifying.
He was climbing a mountain, and the higher he climbed, the better he felt. When he reached the summit of the mountain, he wanted to continue to climb, and so he stepped off the summit into thin air, and suddenly he awoke. Jung intuitively felt this dream to be a warning from the unconscious. He implored his colleague to take extra precautions on any future climbs or avoid them altogether, but the man did not heed the advice. 3 months later, the man went climbing, and in the words of Jung, a guide standing below saw him literally step out into the air while descending a rock face. He fell on the head of his friend, who was waiting lower down, and both were dashed to pieces far below. Dreams also play an important
Why do you have to use the most brutal story? There's plenty of other young stories that are more
role
interesting.
in the creative process. We know from the history of philosophy, science, art, and literature that many great creations and discoveries have been inspired by dreams.
Tesla would say that he would fall asleep and wake up, and his journal would be full of the thing he was trying to create.
A dream informed the Russian chemist Dmitry Mendeleev of the correct
So
order of the
weird.
elements based on atomic weight. August Kekulé was shown the structure of the benzene ring in a dream. The basic theme of Robert Louis Stevenson's novel,
If you ever heard of Jack Parsons, that too.
Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, came to him in a dream,
This is a great
while Carl
novel.
Jung stated that all his greatest ideas were conceived in dreams. In the end, the only events in my life worth telling are inner experiences, amongst which I include
Jung's Red Book, it's not necessarily dream analysis, it's more active imagination. I don't feel like explaining it because it sounds insane. Essentially, Jung credits like the unconscious exploration for his genius.
my dreams and visions. These form
Interestingly enough, Jung was like a master of, we'll talk about like the active mind and then the passive mind. So the active mind is like you studying something and you learning it, whereas the passive mind is like you intuitively knowing something and you being able to create from it. Jung was a master of both, and that's what makes his writing so unique and so interesting. And that's why he was able to tackle these ideas and make them so compelling versus Freud, where Freud was kind of just, oh, I studied this, so it must mean this, and was not able to believe in the fantastical and not able to use his, I don't want to say higher faculties, creative faculties is a good way to put it. So this is really where I see the big split between Jung and Freud was that Jung was more of a creative as well as an intellectual, whereas Freud was just an intellectual. And I think this is really people go one or two ways with these sorts of things. Think about it, like religious people, atheists. It's kind of that idea.
From the prima materia of my
Jung kind of
scientific
had
work.
both
They were the fiery
facets of the
magma out
mind.
of which the stone that had to be worked was crystallized. Dreams also have the capacity to break us free from a worldview that is too constricting and from a day to day existence that is too mundane. The dreams that do this are sometimes called big dreams. Big dreams are the highly significant dreams that are often remembered for a lifetime, and some even prove to be among the most valuable experiences of life. These are the dreams that possess a religious or spiritual significance, provide insights regarding the eternal questions of life, and even transform how we view ourselves and the world. Regarding the nature of big dreams, the Swiss psychologist Marie-Louise von
This is one of Jung's top students.
Franz writes, occasionally, one has a dream that is so remote from one's life, so numinous, Jung's favorite word for intensely moving experience, and so strange and uncanny that it does not seem to belong to the dreamer. It is like a visitation from another world, which in truth it is, the other world being the subterranean one of the unconscious. In ancient times, and even today among some people, such dreams are regarded as messages from the gods or
So I've never heard about this. I just always knew there was a hierarchy of dreams.
ancestral figures.
That's interesting. I'm gonna
These
start using
dreams are
that
called
term.
big dreams by Jung. Jung recounted a particularly striking big dream he experienced in 1944, just after suffering a heart attack that nearly killed him. Jung dreamt that he was walking in the wilderness and stumbled upon an
That's
old chapel.
crazy.
When he entered the chapel, he saw a yogi seated in the lotus position in deep meditation. Jung continues, when I looked at him more closely, I realized that he had my face. I stared in profound fright and awoke with the thought, aha, so he is the one who is meditating me. He has a dream, and I am it. I knew that when he awakened, I would no longer be. Big dreams are rare.
That's such a crazy realization. Some of the things Jung says, you're like, was this dude doing acid or something? Like it sounds like any like random person you talk to who's just like tried illicit drugs for the first time is like, yo, you gotta try it, you gotta do it. Like it's so hilarious. And a lot of these things that like Jung wasn't willing to admit until like much later into his life or even after he died, which I think really makes it so much more fascinating. Like, I don't know, a certain part of me wishes that Jung was more open about these experiences, but I also think he wouldn't quite have hit the mainstream in the same way as he did. So I think it's a double-edged sword.
Most people experience no more than a handful of them. The dreams that most frequently populate our sleeping hours are what Jung called compensatory dreams. The function of such dreams is to compensate, or correct for, the one sidedness, errors, deviations, or other deficiencies of our conscious attitude. The more our conscious mind is ill adapted to
What are my
reality, and
thoughts
the
on the
more we are
Red Book?
evading the tasks of life, the more we will be visited by dreams
I think the Red Book's interesting, but I don't really suggest people read it because they're not gonna really get it. I don't even know if I got it. There were certain parts I really understood, but that book's like a something out there. It really is. I think there's some interesting insights from it, and I think if you take anything away from it, take away the idea that this is Jung confronting his own fears, his own demons, the things that he's neglected, and he doesn't say he conquered them. He says he brought them to the light, meaning he understood his own capacity to do wrong. He understood his own capacity for evil, and he curtailed this into something productive. Can you talk to your soul? I don't even want to talk about it because it's like the moment you start talking about active imagination is the moment you like I, I don't think most people are like sane enough to do it, so I'm not going to talk about it. You guys got to figure that one out for yourself. Like everything I know about it, I just like I don't want to tell people how to do it because it's just like if you haven't meditated for years, if you're not capable of like distinguishing fakeness from reality, like I think it's a one-way ticket to schizophrenia, so I don't want to push anyone down that path, especially because I don't know you guys like that. But yeah, if we meet in person one day, I'll tell you about it.
of a compensatory nature. When we pay attention to our
It's not something that's like so complex that you can't figure it out. I just don't feel like talking about it. You know what I mean? I don't even think the book will help you with it. I think it's it's like meditation. I can teach you how to meditate, but I can't teach you how to meditate. You know what I mean? I can't really. It's something you just either can do or you can't. And yeah.
Or dreams, a self regulating tendency in the soul comes into play, which counterbalances the one sidedness of consciousness or completes it, so that a kind of wholeness and a life's optimum is achieved. A few examples will help clarify the nature of compensatory dreams. A man who is not fulfilling his duties as a father will have dreams that his children hate him, in order to bring him to the awareness that he is avoiding one of the most important tasks of life. A woman who is too identified with her persona, or social personality, will have dreams of committing crimes or engaging in immoral behavior so that she
So this is what I was talking about. Like your dreams give you indication of what you need to do. So this woman is obviously so reliant on her reputation that she's unwilling to step out for herself. So in her dreams, she destroys her reputation. So it doesn't necessarily mean that you need to follow that. It just means that you need to be. I just read your message to you. You need to be capable of stepping out for yourself. You need to be capable of finding the happiness that you're looking for in others and yourself. It's there's always a simple answer to these dreams and what they're guiding you to. It's just you need to recognize it before you can do it. You're pretty far down that path already. I mean, I don't think like you're not because you're coherent. Like if you've ever talked to anyone that's schizophrenic, it's you don't understand them. Like if you can understand where someone's coming from, then it's not really something you need to worry about. It sucks because I feel like I don't know if it's like thrown around as an insult. Like people are like, that's schizo, that's this, that's that. And I think it kind of diminishes the real severity of it. But like when you talk to someone who's really crazy, you're like, all right, this is scary. Like I had a friend who was like off the deep end and he was like texting me like, you're not a god, you're not like, what are you saying, dude? Like I just said I couldn't hang out with you. Like what's going on? And he's like texting me all this crazy shit. Like it's I don't know. I don't really like to like make jokes like that. It's no, he wasn't schizophrenic. He was just crazy. Like, I mean, he's better now. I mean, as good as you can be. But um, I was saying I was getting scared that like that was gonna be some crazy shit. Like, I don't know. I think it's a really like serious thing, and I don't think it's ever been a worse time to be like that. Because back in the day, if you were like crazy and you were seeing things, they made you an oracle. Like what's her name? Joan of Arc. Joan of Arc was like seeing angels and she basically liberated France from England. And it's like now you just get locked up. Like it sucks. I think there's like I don't know, what do you do with someone that can't really comprehend things? I think it's just like a definitely a more serious issue, but I don't want to put anyone down that.
sees the shadow or unconscious dark side of her personality that she needs to integrate to develop a more complete character. Or a man who approaches middle age yet remains dependent on his parents will have dreams that portray him as a helpless child or as being smothered to death, so that he becomes aware of the perilous situation which his lack of independence is creating. The compensatory function of dreams offers welcome assistance, explains Jung. Compensatory dreams illuminate the patient's situation in a way that can be exceedingly beneficial to health. They bring him memories, insights, experiences, awaken dormant qualities in the personality, and reveal the unconscious element in his relationships. So it seldom happens that anyone who has taken the trouble to work over his dreams remains without enrichment and a broadening of his mental horizon. But if dreams are significant messages sent from the unconscious, why are they so difficult to decipher? Why doesn't the unconscious present
The unconscious exists in like a realm beyond comprehension. It doesn't really have rules. And it's so scattered because you have so many different ideas all at once. So it's nonsensical because there's so much of it and it's kind of all combining into this homogenized form. And this is something that Freud talked about like in your dreams there's always something that connects to your last day, but that connection is sometimes very difficult. And there's some dreams you can't make any sense of because you can't comprehend them in a normal way of thinking. like they exist far beyond like what's a good example of this? Like think of how we view God as like this light or like this figure. Like if there, I'm trying to think of the way to say this. If there is a God, whether you believe it or not, do you think you could even comprehend how it would appear? And that's really this idea here. It's like there's too many things combining for us to make sense of it.
these messages to us in a form that is easier for our conscious mind to understand. While the conscious mind is capable of rationality and logic, the unconscious is by nature irrational. It does not operate by the laws of logic and it communicates primarily in symbols, not words. As a plant produces its flower, so the psyche creates its symbols. Every dream is evidence of this process, explains Jung. The fact that the conscious and unconscious mind communicate in different languages explains why dreams are enigmatic. Yet just because we do not fully
Usually your dreams communicate to you through symbols because it's trying to explain this deep phenomena that exists beyond explanation. So like think of symbols as words or a picture or an image or um some sort of idea that represents a deeper one. And it tries to simplify it through symbols. And that's why Jung was so obsessed with symbols, because if you can understand symbols, then you can understand the psyche.
understand the meaning of the symbols presented to us in dreams, does not mean they do not influence us. For just as fairy tales, myths, religious teachings, and
This
rituals
is a creepy
transcend
ass
rational
photo.
understanding yet have influenced human beings for thousands of years, dreams can influence the course of our life, even if we do not fully understand them. Dreams pave the way for life, and they determine you without you understanding their language, Jung wrote in the Red Book, or as he explained elsewhere. It is often objected that the dream must be ineffective unless the dream is understood. This is not so certain, however, for many things can be effective without being understood.
So Jung a lot of times would talk about synchronicity in the way of it's something that you can't understand, but it'll make sense eventually. So have you ever had a gut feeling on something and you don't follow through on it and you're like, damn, I knew it, but I shouldn't have done that. Like you go to the casino, you put it all in black and you're like, damn it, I should have put it on red. Like it's something like that.
But there
You
is no
just had
doubt
a
that it can
feeling
enhance its
before that
effect
something wasn't
considerably by
right and you didn't
understanding the
listen.
dream, and this is often necessary because the voice of the unconscious so easily goes unheard. To understand dreams and thereby enhance their effects, we should make a habit of recording our dreams first thing in the morning, for memories of dreams quickly fade as we go about our day. When we come
I need
across a
to start
dream which we
doing
feel is
this.
particularly significant, we can engage in what Jung called dream amplification. Amplifying a dream involves reflecting on the dream and weaving ideas, concepts, and associations around it. This might include recalling memories that we think are related to the dream, allowing our
Sometimes when I wake up, I'll analyze my dream right there, but then I forget about it and I'm like, I remember the analysis, but I don't remember what the dream was.
intuition to freely speculate on its meaning, or thinking about whether the dream is related to a task we are not fulfilling, or if it is compensating for a conscious attitude that is ill adapted to the demands of life. In interpreting a big dream, amplification is aided by knowledge of mythology and religion, for big dreams are often composed of the recurring symbols and motifs that are found cross culturally in religions and myths. We will know that we have stumbled upon a correct dream interpretation when, in the words of Jung, the interpretation clicks. When there is the feeling that it absolutely hits the fact, one knows one is on the right track.
You can always tell. You can always tell when you understand it because it makes so much sense in the context of yourself and of your life. Think about it that way.
Or as von Franz elaborates regarding Jung's method of dream amplification. Jung did not interpret his dreams by immediately forming a clear idea of what they meant. Instead, he carried them around within himself, lived with them inwardly, as it were, and asked questions of them. If he came across something in a book or in an outer experience which reminded him of a dream image, he would add it to that image, so to speak, so that a fabric of ideas developed, with a constantly increasing richness.
Generally, you can only get breadcrumbs right away from the dream. You don't understand its full purpose, its full method, and then usually with time it gets revealed.
If we pay more attention to our dreams and devote more time to understanding them, we will possess an effective antidote against many of the collective sicknesses of our age. For in Jung's analysis, much of what plagues modern society, be it
What
endemic
is this
levels of neurotic
picture?
illnesses, mass delusions, a widespread level of cowardice amongst the general population, an
I
extreme
swear, sometimes this guy just finds the weirdest images ever. And just like, who even painted
susceptibility to
this?
propaganda, or a sheep-like
This
obedience to
isn't
corrupt
that
authority
dumb, but
figures, is the result of a dangerous disconnect between the conscious mind and the unconscious. Modern man has lost touch with his instincts, with the basic facts of human nature, and with a common sense wisdom that is millions of years old. As it is dreams that help forge a connection to this ancient ground of our being, the more we pay attention to our dreams, the more we will find the inner strength and
This is mainly Pure Hall. I was about to say, he's just stealing this image.
intuitive wisdom needed to thrive in a sick society. Whereas Jung explains, dreams are impartial, spontaneous products of the unconscious psyche, outside the control of the will. They are
So again, your dreams, all he's saying here is your dreams are an unbiased peek into what's really going on with your head.
pure in nature. They show us the unvarnished natural truth, and are therefore fitted.
So when have you been honest with yourself and when have others been honest with you? You know, you bring a problem to someone and they go, it's not that bad when it's like the worst thing they've ever heard. Like,
As nothing else is, to give us back an attitude that accords with our basic human nature when our consciousness has strayed too far from its foundations and runs into an impasse. Learn more about our membership, access transcripts.
okay. So that was a good video. I think I'm gonna end it here because I have not eaten yet today. So I'm gonna eat. I may stream again. Don't bank on it, but if I have some time and energy, that may be a thing. Um, with that said, I've been writing something about Jung, so if you're interested in my writings and in-depth explanation, go ahead, join my school where I talk about that. If you're not interested, just keep watching streams, keep watching the video. Um, but yeah. So do you not see synchronicity as more symbolism or angel numbers, things like that? I don't think it's symbolic or I mean, I think it's everything. Like I don't really like to classify anything as anything, especially when it comes to synchronicity. I think it's always just it's an indication of something. It's a gut feeling. It's an idea that something's going to happen and sometimes you don't notice it. Sometimes it's a turning point. Sometimes it's a moment where you have an epiphany and you're like, "Oh, I need to do this." Like, I mean, I think it could be anything. So, I don't necessarily see synchronicities as one thing or the other. But yeah, thank you guys so much for being here. Definitely gonna stream tomorrow, maybe tonight, I don't know. But peace out. I'll catch you guys in the next one.